another book for Ted, and it's called the Anglo-Saxon Primer, and it's got a Saxon primer with grammar, notes and a glossary. It's by Henry Sweet, and it's something he wanted. I don't know much about it. I haven't even read it, but I'll make it up and I'll show you what I've done with it. And as I say, most of this stuff comes from Gutenberg, and it was a HTML file, so they're easy to get, they're readily to get. And I've still got to finish off me Harold Part 4, which I've got here, and the block is here. I've got to stitch this block up. I've got to stitch the book block up, and I'm in the process of doing that. I'm doing several things, but my daughter came today, and I love games, but I dumped them on them. I don't know whether I like them or not. I'm never quite sure, but what it is, it was in a gamut. I think it was in a book called The Gamut of Games by Sid Sackson, and I think it was originally called Solitaire, and I think the Germans made it under license and called it Extra or Einstein. There's not a lot of information on it, but it's recently been called Choice, and these, I don't know how old it is or whatever, but all these things were in 2000 punked, and the total was written. It was all in German, so I changed it from the German, and because you can do that on the internet. You just put a word in, what's there, and then find it, and then change it to whatever. If you don't know what the word is, I'm not too bad on German, so I'm not good, but I'm not too bad, and I know most of the words, the average words, and I certainly know the words to games. And you got name is Nama and things like this, so I changed it all anyway. And what it is, you can colour the board if you want, but I was thinking about colouring it in, but this part of the board here is a minus, and you've got to pass this line throwing the dice in various scores, and this one here is a 0 line. And this one starts at ×1, ×2, ×3, then it goes to ×5 and ×7. And then you score plus points on this side and minus points on that side. And then you've got a scoring arrangement here where you've got plus points and then minus points. Take one from the other here, and then you get a grand total of whatever it is at the bottom. And when you play the dice, you play it with 5 dice, in fact. I've got 5 dice here, and the 5 dice are played in pairs, so you pair them off, so you've got a score in pair there, and then one of them's got to be discarded. So if you wanted to save the 10s, you could save the 10s and save that would be a 3, and you could throw away the 4. So you're scoring on 10 and scoring on 3. So what you do is you go down to the 10 here, there you can see the 10 there, and you just scratch that. They put zeros on, I don't know why, they could have just been empty squares, but you scratch that off, and that's 1. So you've got to make another 1, 2, 3, you've got to make 5 before you even start, well 6 before you even start scoring, and they will score you 60 points per time, each time. So that's 1, if you scored there, that would score you 160, and the second one would score you 2 60s. That's 120. The next one would score you 3 60s. That's 180. And the next one is 5 60s. That's 300. And 7 6s are 42. You'd score 4. The maximum score on that line would be 420. If you don't make a line, or you don't score to the end of the line with this line here, you score minus points, and every one of them will be a minus 200. So there's a bit of luck and a bit of skill and a bit of judgment, and there's varying ways you can do these. I mean, you can make that 5 and a 2 is 7, 5 and a 1 is 6, or you can do so you can see that the various scorings is different. There's 9 there, and there's 5 there, and so you can change and throw away whatever you like. in the beginning. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter until you start getting to the end. And the thing is, with the throwaway dice, if you're throwing a 4, you would cross off the 4 there. I hope you can see this. And then you'll see you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, another 5 to go. Once you get 5 4s on there, or once you've thrown 5 4s on there, the game would stop. It would stop on 5 5s or 5 6s or 5 1s or 5 2s, whichever. So as soon as you get to the end here, by discarding the throwaway dice, which is one of them, the game would stop, and then you would add up your scores and see what you'd got. And you can see from the score sheets here that my daughter and my son-in-law have been doing. That's my daughter's. She scored, I don't know if you can see that. She scored, she put them in the wrong order. I'll have to change this around. We seem to score the minuses first and then the pluses, and they put pluses and then minuses. So I'll change that around. She scored minus 870, and you take away the 800 from there. So she would have scored 70. And yeah, and Davey, my son-in-law, scored 280, 150, 100, 60, and then the rest of them came off. So he took 1,000 from 590 and he was minus 410. So that's the way the game goes. If you can score a 0, you're doing pretty good. If you can score anything above a 0, you're doing quite well. The maximum that apparently has been scored, somebody scored it, was 1,018 or something. So I suppose people can score bigger than that. But you can see the scores on this one are 1,200 minus, take away 920, she scored 270 on that one. And this one she scored 920, 800, and she scored plus 126. She played it around the right way that time. So that's how you play the game. It's not hard to play. It's hard to explain, not harder than to play. So the idea is that you throw the 5 dice, and you choose. You've got a choice now between what you want to throw away. So if I wanted to throw away the 6, I could keep the 8 and the 3. So I would cross off 8 and 3 and keep carrying on until I started filling them all in. And that's as simple as it is. It's a simple little game. There's a couple of extra little rules in. When you reach the end here, by throwing the discard, you've got to discard one of the dices, and the dices work in pairs, obviously, except for the last one, which you do as a discard. You've got to discard that one, and this one is the one that stops the game. So when you reach any one of the dice reaches the end here, it stops immediately, and you score up. And you must use all the dice to score. So when you're coming along here, if you've got 7 and all the 7s are filled in, you can't play on 7, so you've got to rearrange the dice. So that would be 5, 6, 7, and you want to play at 7 and 4. You couldn't, because 7s were all filled in. You could play the 4 and discard the 6, but you can't for that, so you'd have to bring the 6 in and do 11. You'd have to open a new line on 11 and discard the 2. I hope that's clear. Anyway, I'll have a look at that and see what I've done wrong and everything else. So that's choice. Anyway, I've tried to make it as clear as I can. It's not too easy to I thought it was going to be easier to explain than that.